Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We'll give everyone just a minute here to join our webinar. And as you join, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can say your name, what you do for work, where you're currently located. We always love seeing where our attendees are coming from. So the chat is open, and we'd love to hear from you. Take just a few more seconds as people get settled here. And of course, as you come in, please, and you're going to engage in the chat, make sure that it is set so that your chat goes to everyone and not just hosts and panelists. And so you can toggle that as you go here at the bottom as you type in your message. Make sure that little blue icon says everyone and not just hosts and panelists. I love it. We already have people here in the United States. We have people abroad in Germany. We have so many wonderful alums too here in the chat, which is amazing. We have some coaches. We have some instructors of the program. Yes, it is so great to see everybody here. Keep the energy going, keep the chat active. So please continue to introduce yourself. We'd love to hear from you in throughout the presentations today. But I'm going to slowly get started as people get join us here for today. But I want to welcome all of you to Leading Through Uncertain Times, Capstone Projects from the Executive Program. Our event today features 21 incredible media leaders and executives from around the world who just completed their year-long journey with us in the executive program in news innovation and leadership here at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY. These presentations that they are delivering today are the culmination of their capstone projects that they've been working on during this time. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Kyle Plants, and I'm the Senior Director of Leadership Programs of our Professional Development Training programs here at the school. And it has been a true honor and privilege to work with these amazing people over the past year. The premise of the capstone projects that they've been working on is to have them identify problems or challenges in one's newsroom or in the media industry in general, and then to showcase and come up with and to think about possible outcomes, strategies, and solutions to these problems and challenges that we're all facing. So we're very excited to hear what our cohort is going to talk about today. You'll hear everything from audience engagement strategies to operations to AI solutions to thinking about what does it mean to just lead during this really difficult time. So I'm excited to highlight all of these projects here with us today. I also just want to take a moment here to thank some people for making this program possible. I want to thank Marie Gillot, our Executive Director of our Professional Development Training Programs, Anita Zelina, who is our amazing co-founder of the program, who started this 6 years ago, 7 years ago, which is amazing that is still continuing to this day. She's also our executive in residence, an instructor, and teaches many classes in our program. And of course, Cynthia DeBose, who is our lead coach, an instructor in this program, and also a very proud alumna from our second cohort. And of course, I want to thank our Dean, Graciela Machowski, for her vision, support, and just recognition in the value of a program like this for media leaders. Our funders also make this program possible for the participation of many of our cohort members. And I want to thank the Knight Foundation, Helsing Samanat Foundation, and the Asian American Journalists Association. And I want to thank all of you for being with us here today, for taking the time to hear what these amazing cohort has to say. So again, before we get started here, I just have a few ground rules that I want to go over. Again, we want the chat to be as interactive as possible. So many of the presenters are here in person. We have a couple of virtual presentations that we're going to kick off with here shortly, but they will be in the chat to answer any questions. So please keep the chat active. We'd love to hear from you. Also, again, make sure that the messages are sending to the chat to everyone and not just the panelists. So you can make that change at the bottom when you send your message. Make sure that little blue icon says everyone. Just also a warning, we're in Midtown Manhattan right now. Because we're in the heart of Times Square, you might hear the occasional horn go off, and that's just the beauty of New York City. So bear with us with any outside noise that you might hear on today's webinar. And again, we'd love to see the chat open. Continue to introduce yourselves as you're joining, ask questions, celebrate the incredible work that they have done over the last year. So with that said, I want to stop talking and I'd like to introduce our first presenter. So our first of our virtual presentations is going to be Natália Leal. She is the CEO of Lupa, a fact-checking agency in Brazil. And we're excited to have a recording of her presentation because she is currently on maternity leave. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Natália then to get us started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natália Leal. I'm a journalist, human resources, and business management specialist. I am the CEO of Agência Lupa in Brazil. And I wish I could be with you in person, but now I can due to my maternity leave. I'm busy being a mom. So doing this recorded is the way we find to be there with you. And this is my capstone project, and let's start with this. So there is no playbook for leading a counter misinformation organization under pressure. And over the past few years, I've had to make high-stake decisions with limited information, constant uncertainty, and often alone. And that experience is what led me to this project. Because organizations fighting misinformation have become essential, but they operate in very fragile conditions. Small teams, unstable funding, platform dependence, political pressure, and leadership in this context is complex and often undersupported. So the question I wanted to answer with this project was, how can leaders make better decisions in this kind of environment? So to explore this question, I combined three things. First, research on organizational resilience. Second, interviews with leaders from other fact-checking organizations and counter-misinformation initiatives, such as Chequeado, Maldita, and IFCN. And third, my own experience as the CEO of Lupa. What I found is that resilience is not just about surviving crisis. It's about how organizations are making decisions every day. From this, I identify four key dimensions that shape resilience, and I call it the FACT framework: financial sustainability, adaptive leadership, clear governance, and team resilience. And what is important here is that these are not abstract ideas. They are, in fact, the areas where leadership decisions actually happen in news organizations. The challenge, though, is that frameworks are super hard to use in real time. So I translated this into a practical tool, a decision map that helps leaders identify challenges, diagnose what is a fact, and guided reflection. And then I went one step further and I built a conversational prototype that turns this logic into a guided dialogue. And this is the resilience decision map. Instead of a static framework, this works like a conversation. The system asks questions, helps structure thinking, and suggests possible actions. It doesn't make decisions, but it helps leaders think more clearly under pressure. To show how this works in practice, I applied the framework to a real situation in my organization. I was preparing for a 7-month leadership leave due to my maternity leave, which creates a clear organizational challenge here. So, using the decision map, the first step was to define the challenge: a temporary leadership absence with potential risks to decision-making continuity and to the governance. Then we diagnosed the main dimensions involved in this challenge: adaptive leadership, clear governance, and team resilience. And finally, we position the situation in the resilience cycle. This is both an anticipate and respond moment where we can prepare before disruption happens. And this is where this framework becomes actionable. Because from there, the framework helps structure reflection. So we ask questions like, which decisions are currently centralized? What governance structures exist in my absence? Is this team prepared to take on more responsibility? And these questions directly inform our decisions. So first, instead of replacing the CEO with one person, we created an executive committee with shared decision-making. Second, we developed an internal knowledge base supported by an AI assistant to document key processes and to preserve institutional knowledge. And this is what it looks like when structure reflection becomes real organizational challenge. The goal here is not to eliminate uncertainty, but is to structure how we can navigate this uncertainty. This project, of course, is still evolving. And the next steps for this, after my maternity leave, of course, is to continue testing this tool and refining it with other insights from other organizations and from other leaders in the sector, and explore how this tool can support other organizations, not just counter misinformation initiatives, but journalistic initiatives in general. And one thing, of course, is already clear for us. Leadership doesn't have to be a solitary process. And with the right structures, we can make better decisions and build more resilient organizations. And the Resilience Decision Map is here to help on it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natalia. It was so good. Yes, let's celebrate that. For delivering that on maternity leave. No, but we were so glad that we could have her record that in advance of her and her seeing her use her project to be able to plan for her maternity leave, which was really cool and exciting. Just a quick note there, her QR code, of course, expired since she last worked on her presentation. However, the link in the chat is the chatbot that she created, so you can feel free to use that, and that will direct you and you can play around with it, which is really, really cool. All right, up next, I want to move on to our next presentation, which is going to be Sebastian Walker. He is a co-founder of a new startup and an independent filmmaker who is currently on assignment in Iran. So we were able to record his presentation as well in advance of his trip. So I'll pass the mic again over to Sebastian.
Hi everyone, my name is Sebastian Walker, and I'm sorry to not be there in person. I'm having to present this capstone remotely as I'm a journalist and filmmaker on standby to deploy to Iran, given everything that's happening on the ground. The title of this capstone is Billionaire Watch, and it's all about extreme wealth. When I say it's all about extreme wealth, what I really mean is that much of our society today is all about extreme wealth. We're living through an era of unprecedented consolidation of resources and data into the hands of the ultra-wealthy. In the last 5 years, the fortunes of the world's richest men have doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, while more than 5 billion people have been made poorer. Amid these developments, the business of journalism has collapsed. Thousands of reporters have lost their jobs, local newspapers have closed down or had reporting resources dwindle, and traditional media has lost connection with its audience on issues that most impact them. Journalism, as we know it, is dying and defunded, which makes hard-hitting investigative reporting harder than it's ever been before. Billionaire Watch is a new reporting beat that aims to bring accountability to the power structures all around us. It's an investigative reporting collective that helps track, analyze, and visually map the ways that ultra-wealth is impacting communities and society at large. Billionaire Watch will build tools and collect data for an era where our information ecosystem is consolidated under the control of a few billionaires that would normally be scrutinized by an independent press. It will also be a collaborative reporting resource for newsrooms facing budgetary restrictions, limiting ambitious investigative journalistic work on this topic. I am a journalist, a co-founder, and an editorial leader who has spent much of my career building things that place focus on holding power to account. My first job in international news was establishing an independent newspaper in post-invasion Baghdad to cover the reconstruction of Iraq. That's me on the left, aged 25, at the printing press we found to get the newspaper published. Next, I joined a small launch team developing an international version of Al Jazeera that became the world's first 24-hour English-language news channel to be based in the Middle East. We covered US politics with an outsider's eye. When Citizens United decision opened the floodgates for corporate money in politics, I doorstepped one of the Koch brothers on the floor of the 2012 Republican convention. That election was a turning point. In the next 4 US campaign cycles, outside spending jumped from $350 million to more than $4 trillion in 2024, a rise of more than 1 million%. In that time, I covered the banking crash, the foreclosure crisis, the Occupy Wall Street movement. I spent years reporting on the impacts of this spiraling inequality in the United States. Then traditional media organizations began to crumble, including my own. So I co-founded a new platform for news called Newsphere that launched in February 2024 as the first social-style news monetization platform designed by journalists for journalists. Our aim was to carve reporters a slice of the content creator economy, projected to be worth nearly $500 billion by 2027, by building a social-style app for reliable reporting beyond the control of tech billionaires. But it didn't solve for the actual challenge of scrutinizing those billionaires at a national or local level. This blueprint for Billionaire Watch is modeled after European nonprofits like Bellingcat and Air Wars, with a lean but multidisciplinary core team forming the basis of a new reporting collective. The blueprint plans for a full-time editorial team operating at less than $500,000 per annum when fully staffed. But this core team combines with a revolving panel of experts lending their time for specific projects. An example of this model was the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, or TBIJ's, investigation into employment tribunals in the UK. Reporters worked with an advisory panel made up of employment lawyers, union officials, and academics to get to the heart of the issues. Similarly, Billionaire Watch would use a revolving brain trust of data scientists, tax experts, economists, graphic animators, and others motivated to lend their time in return for an opportunity to make an impact in a consequential investigation. At its heart, Billionaire Watch aims to fill reporting gaps left by the vanishing of local and regional newspapers. A core function is to offer collaborations with an experts bureau of data-driven investigative reporting expertise and resources to make ambitious, long-lead journalism projects possible. One example of a place where this kind of reporting can have real impact is Montana, where a phenomenon of tech billionaires buying up public lands and resources under the radar of the local communities is at its peak. We can envision a collaboration here with the Montana Free Press to expand an existing data-driven project titled Who Owns Montana? Our revenue plan is based on early and sustaining donors funding a nonprofit news operation with an active board of directors. We think there will be subject area mission alignment with organizations such as Patriotic Millionaires. We would then build towards a subscription model, as well as having our journalists and experts be contracted for capacity building after 1 year. Thank you for listening, and I would be very excited to speak further with anyone who has more questions. Please feel free to reach out to me by email, and I'd love to discuss more.
Yes, thank you so much, Sebastian, talking about such a really important topic and that is extremely uncovered. And I think his point of connecting it to the local news crisis is something really, really remarkable. All right, we're going to be moving on now into our next presentation. We have Tham, who is the head of operations at Malaysiakini. She is not with us right now in person, but here with us virtual. So we're excited to have her give her presentation live to all of us here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Tham, thank you so much for being here, can share her screen and give her presentation. If you want to come unmute yourself and we'll be ready to go.
Myself. Hello, everyone. I am Sin Hao, the head of operations of Malaysiakini. I'm so sorry I can't be there. I'm currently based in Kuala Lumpur. I would like to share about my Capstone project. Malaysiakini is one of Malaysia's top 3 most visited news sites. We are recognized for our independent reporting. We publish in 4 languages, namely Malay, English, Chinese, and Tamil. And for this particular project, I focus on trying to understand about our readers and trying to keep our subscription model sustainable. Malaysiakini was established in 1999 as a digital-only platform. We take pride in our digital subscription model, which started as early as 2002. But we currently have a problem, and that is more than half of our paying subscribers are aged 55 and above, which is in a country where this particular age group makes up only 21% of the population. So for this project, I asked a question, a very specific one. How do we structurally grow the share of our 35 to 55 readers in our subscriber base before it is too late? So this is the slide that is showing the population structure of my country. So for that, we survey more than 2,000 readers across 3 groups. And these 3 groups are our current paying subscribers who have cancelled in the last 2 years, as well as our readers who are aged 35 to 55, regardless of whether they pay. So we are trying to understand their paying behavior as well as their reading behavior and the correlation between that. The original project scope also included a focus group survey. However, due to time constraint, we didn't include the data. But once the data is clean, it will be included as we continue to experiment with our recommendations. And from our survey, these are some of our findings. First, we went into this survey assuming that younger readers are simply less committed to us. However, the data says otherwise. A 35-year-old subscriber and a 60-year-old subscriber look almost identical on loyalty measures. The age group nearly disappears once someone is paying. So what this is telling us is that the problem is getting them across the paywall in the first place. Once they are in, they are likely to stay. So the strategy shifts. It is less about creating different content for younger audience. It's more about removing the barriers to their first subscription. Second, and this is something that genuinely surprises, our diaspora readers turn out to be our most loyal audience. They outperform domestic subscribers on every measure we track, whether it's satisfaction, trust, willingness to recommend, even comments engagement. And we have never really put in any dedicated effort into serving them. And that is an opportunity we completely overlook. Third, 80% of the 35 to 55 cohort that we surveyed told us that they want at least one non-text format alongside articles, whether it's in the format of video, social content, or visuals. Our older subscribers are mostly fine with only text. And fourth, we asked readers to rate how important different types of journalism are to them. Things like keep me updated, hold power to account, help me make decisions, inspire me, etc. And they told us that they want practical journalism. Namely, how do I file my taxes? What are my retirement options? Our readers are telling us that they want something from us that is more than politics and investigations. They want us to be useful in their daily lives. And that is a content gap that we can bridge. So based on that, we came up with a few recommendations designed to run within 12 months. Namely, we are thinking of launching a newsletter funnel targeting the younger cohort. This will be a direct channel that we own, designed to convert the readers who currently consume us through social media without ever visiting our site. And this is a newsletter that's on top of our existing newsletter. And this new one will combine news content and marketing messages. Number two, we are looking into increasing the frequency of an existing Malay talk show. And because the format has already proven to work, we just need more of it. The third one is to diversify our content range to serve user needs we are currently underserving with practical and decision support journalism alongside the political accountability work that we already do well. And fourth is to introduce new payment options to lower the barriers for younger readers. These recommendations give us a concrete path to reaching the younger cohort through news channel, new formats, and new content. So Malaysiakini has spent 27 years earning trust. The trust is still there, and our data told us that. What we haven't really done is to make it easy enough for the next generation of readers to act on that trust. And this project tells us exactly where the barriers are and where we can start our work. Now that we have to remove it because the demographic clock doesn't wait for us. And that is my presentation. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can go to my LinkedIn and we can get connected. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us and delivering it live. Of course, we miss you in person, and thank you for doing it so late. It's really incredible. All right, we are going to reshare our screen here. And we're going to move on to our in-person presentation. So the rest of our cohort is live with us here in New York City. So we're very excited to have them deliver their capstone projects with us next. Up first, to kick us off here, we have Bethany Lane. Welcome, Bethany.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bethany Lane. I'm the revenue strategist at Q City Metro. Today, I'll share my work to reinvent a Black-focused newsroom in a competitive AI-filled landscape. Within this presentation, you'll see clips of a longer, more in-depth video to help me set the scene. Charlotte has 30+ local news outlets, hundreds of local influencers, and AI is quietly answering the questions that used to bring readers to our website. And in the middle of all of that, there's only one outlet serving the Black community, and that's Q City Metro. So for the last 10 months, I've been figuring out how to make sure our newsroom doesn't just survive, but becomes irreplaceable. Here's what we did. So first, we looked at our metrics. The biggest red flag was our low website traffic. But upon further discussion and research, we realized the question isn't how do we get back to 2018 traffic, it's how can we better reach and serve our audience in this new landscape? And maybe that means website traffic is no longer a key performance indicator. I built a 14-question survey and over 500 readers actually filled it out. Here's what they want from us. 82% want Black culture and people profiles, 68% want things to do and events, 57% want local government and political news. When asked where and how they want their news, 72% said social media, 71% said in a newsletter, and 45% said articles. Translation, meet them on their phones, give them the gist, and tell them the stories that actually look like their lives. Then I went deeper. I did 11 Zoom interviews with readers of various ages and demographics with the ultimate question of what do they want from Q City Metro? And here's what surprised me. They don't want us to be a one-stop shop, and they don't even want us to break news first. Instead, they want intentional and emotional stories. They want to see themselves reflected in our content, and they want help making friends, shopping Black-owned, and finding events that are meant for them. From all this research, we built 5 personas. Sydney, the social glue, wants the Black dollar, the brunch spots, the everyday people. Zavia, career-driven, budget-aware, wants politics translated into why does this affect me? Ken, give him deep dives or give him nothing. Esh, loves wellness, fact-checks everything, and wants utility. And Linda, newsletter loyal, age-inclusive, and hates when we forget the suburbs. Data, reader personas, interviews, all of this pointed us to a new mission, Not a tagline, but something we actually run every single decision through. Q City Metro's mission is to inform and connect Black Charlotteans by producing people-first content and events. I know people first is a buzzword, but to Q City Metro, people first means we treat the lived experiences of Black Charlotteans as our primary subject. We built 15 different content series that lean into this people first mission and feed our reader personas. We cover stories like the newcomer figuring out how to plant roots, the couple finding their first home, the entrepreneur behind the storefront, and the local group that's making Mahjong more inclusive. We were excited for our new mission, our reader personas, and content strategy, but then we hit a roadblock. Advertising dollars were dipping dramatically. Whether we blame this on the deprioritization of DEI, the economy itself, or the competitive landscape, we had to make some tough decisions, including laying off 2 staff members. So now, my Capstone project wasn't just a way to rebuild audience, it became our only lifeline to survival. So like I said, this wasn't just a content shift, it was an entire strategy change. We had to stop sending out our newsletter every day and instead send it just 3 times a week, giving our team some breathing room. We stopped covering what 30 other outlets are already going to. If there's a school board meeting tonight, we probably won't be there. We started turning 90% of our articles into videos for social media. We started using an AI app to monitor social channels and then write draft articles. And we started using our editor and freelancers to create more in-depth content that's almost magazine-like and takes a relevant topic much deeper with new perspectives. We also redefined our internal KPIs, newsletter signups, open rate, social follows, and social engagement. These KPIs matter because they can lead to revenue. Advertisers have a finite budget, but infinite ways to spend it. We won't win them by having the biggest audience in Charlotte, but instead by having a defined demographic who is very engaged with our content and loyal to the brand. Plus, the higher these numbers are, the more we can charge for ads. So, how's it been going? Videos and posts that lean into this people-first content strategy are resulting in new followers, more shares, and even newsletter signups. This video highlighting events for the weekend had over 60 people comment news to get a DM to our newsletter sign-up link, and 83% of them actually subscribed. Just in the last 30 days, our newsletter subscription rate is up 314%. This is thanks to those automated DMs on Instagram giving followers a direct link to sign up for our newsletter. Our unsubscribe rate on our newsletters is also decreased. On social media, our views are up 11% and our engagement is up 33%. Our goals by the end of the year are to gain an additional 10,000 Instagram followers and an additional 3,000 newsletter subscribers. If you want to support our work, please head to qcitymetro.com to get our newsletter, follow us on social media, or even donate. Thank you so much.
Great job, Bethany. Thank you so much for kicking us off here in person. And it's incredible to see 314% increase is crazy. So thank you so much. All right, we're going to keep the good vibes going. We've got up next, we have Calli Remillard. Welcome, Calli.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Calli Remillard, the Director of Audience Engagement at the Enterprise and the editor of one of its 4 newspapers. And for the last 9 months, I've been asking one question. Can a local newspaper revitalize itself by truly reconnecting with its audience? The short answer is yes, and the next few minutes are the long answer. So first, some quick context. The Enterprise has covered Upper Cape Cod since 1895, and we've been owned by the Huff family for nearly a century. We currently operate 4 town newspapers out of 1 newsroom in Falmouth, Massachusetts. We're print first, which isn't entirely common in this digital age, but print is still our biggest revenue stream. Print can only carry us so far in 2026, though, and it was clear that if we stayed stagnant, we'd get left behind. One glaring problem was that our social media presence was weak and passive, and putting no intention into our posts returned no engagement from our audience. So my publisher and I created my new role from scratch, built around one job: reconnect with our audience wherever they are. We needed to start where our audience already was, and for a huge slice of the demographic on Cape Cod, that's in their inbox and on Facebook. Our newsletters were essentially just a blast of links, and the metrics were okay. But once we introduced an editor's note that set the tone and personalized the newsletter, we saw those metrics hold steady and even slightly increase. Our newsletter subscriptions jumped 117% compared to the prior year, a direct result of these efforts and increased marketing around our newsletters, which are free. Over on Facebook, we had a bigger problem. Our posts were broken, captions cut off mid-sentence, and almost nothing got engagement. So I rebuilt it. New photos, real captions, smarter link strategy, and readers responded. Our Facebook strategy started gaining real traction. This is the heart of reconnecting. We didn't wait for our audience to come to us. We met them where they already were. Here's what that looks like in numbers. These statistics are from our main Facebook page over about 5 months. Content interactions are up over 550%, and watch time is up more than 25,000%, signaling that our new venture into vertical video is working. And it wasn't just our flagship page. All 5 of our town pages grew together. Our combined following went from over 16,000 to nearly 21,000, a 28.7 increase in 5 months. Our largest jump in following was in early April into May, right around the same time we began posting regular vertical video content. And our little hyper-local newsroom, our main Facebook page racked up over 1 million views in just under 5 months. Those are not vanity metrics. That's thousands of new people who now see us in their feed every day. But online reach can only get you so far. So our second move was to get face-to-face. We held our first ever focus group in February, which was rebranded to our ongoing listening tour in the spring. The most impactful, though, was our open house at the end of March. I keep coming back to this event because it really encapsulates how organic our efforts have been. We pushed it to the audience through the channels we knew they were using: print and web ads, newsletter campaigns, social media, and we expected a modest turnout, but we wound up welcoming more than 70 people into our office in 90 minutes. They were exploring our newsroom archives, learning how to use their digital subscription, and chatting with our staff. People arrived early and they stayed late, and one such person, a 90-year-old subscriber, told me that he still prefers to call us on the phone because he likes that someone actually answers. So just having a real person on the other end of that line was making a real impact. And this is how we began reestablishing, not just being online, but being present, in person, and face-to-face with our community. Here is where things really come together. Reconnecting and reestablishing were not 2 separate wins. One caused the other, and together they caused something bigger. First, we met our audience on Facebook and in their inboxes, and then we brought them together in person. And that combination of visibility plus trust is what converted into real investment in our work. Donations are up 160%, something we have not seen before. And it's harder to put a number on community trust, but 70 plus people in one room, dozens more across our other events, plus reader testimonials that people left us without us even asking, that's true reader loyalty. And now on to our biggest win. A longtime reader saw all of this unfold and reached out to us right after our open house, looking to support our work. Now, nothing is set in stone, but the fact that this opportunity landed in our laps 2 weeks after our open house is worth mentioning, because we didn't ask, we were noticed. After some initial conversation, we found our priorities aligned around building up and protecting our community. One way we envision doing this is through a fellowship, which would allow us to hone early career journalists looking for a place to cut their teeth, put boots on the ground, and really learn. Because you learn differently that way. I certainly did. The fellowship would be supported by a stipend that funds the position and subsidizes housing costs. That last part is critical because Cape Cod's housing crisis has repeatedly cost us candidates that we want. So this could solve the exact problem that's been holding us back, help us expand and deepen our local coverage, and solidify us as a true teaching newsroom. And again, we did not go looking for a donor. We built something worth investing in, and a donor came to us. We're currently working to develop a nonprofit arm of our company, which will allow us to make this idea a reality and ideally create more philanthropic opportunities in the future. Up on the screen are some of the new initiatives that we're working on to help us continue building on this foundation, including a membership tier, our continued listening tour, and a potential expansion into Barnstable, which is the county seat of Cape Cod. So, can a local newspaper truly revitalize itself by reconnecting with its audience? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. We met them where they were, we brought them into our space, and that earned trust could help fund the next generation of journalists at the enterprise. And we're not done. In fact, we are just getting started. People want local news. They want to feel connected. And we're uniquely positioned to give them that. So we will. Because our mission is simple: to boldly go. Thank you all so much for being here today. It is amazing to see so many people care about the future of our industry. If you'd like full access to the Adapt or Die case study 2.0 once it's released later this summer, please scan the QR code on the screen, leave your email and any feedback, and please connect with me. Whether you're looking just to learn about this program or you want to say hi, I'd love to chat, provide any mentorship, guidance to local newsrooms who are also looking to revitalize their image and audience relations the way we did. So come find me on LinkedIn, follow the Enterprise on social media, and please support your local newspaper.
Thank you so much, Calli. They have hats, which is really exciting. So you should definitely check out the Enterprise and yeah, read local, which is always great. All right, let's keep it going. Up next, we have Clémentine Forissier, and welcome, Clémentine.
Hello, I'm Clémentine Forissier, Editorial Director of Context, an independent B2B media outlet covering public policy in France and in the European Union. A question started following me after a conversation with my newsroom 2 years ago, as France entered a period of political uncertainty. What happens when journalists start wondering whether they still want to do their job? Not because of the workload, not because of the salary, but because they face growing hostility toward the press, constant attacks on facts, and political leaders who increasingly question the role of journalism. We've seen versions of this in several European countries, and more recently in the United States. And with the presidential election coming up in France, the question of how journalists keep doing their job has become very real for my newsroom too. But the challenge goes beyond the next election. In France, only 31% of the public says it trusts the news. That's one of the lowest levels in Western Europe. We also increasingly see public institutions challenging the work of established news organizations. When journalism is portrayed as unreliable, it becomes harder for the media to play its democratic role. So I kept coming back to the same question. How do you prepare a newsroom for that? This capstone is not a doctoral thesis. It's not an attempt to predict the future. It's an attempt to prepare for it. My goal was simple: to learn from people who've already faced these situations. This project is not a study of war zones or authoritarian regimes. It's how independent media organizations build resilience in democratic societies. To explore it, I interviewed journalists, editors, CEO, investors, and press freedom experts across 8 countries spanning Europe, the US, and the Middle East. And I also interviewed our readers. Very quickly, one thing became clear. The risks don't stop at the newsroom door. They affect every aspect of the company. The result was an article built around 11 lessons and a roadmap for context. Today, I'll focus on 3 of those lessons. The 3 I found most urgent for my newsroom, and maybe most relevant beyond it. Then, I'll show how we are turning them into a concrete resilience program in my company. One lesson stood out to me: the neutrality trap. Several people told me that in polarized environment, it can become easier to portray a factual news organization as a political actor. As Mike Abram from The Times told me, the best statement we can make is through the work, rather than through what we say we believe. What struck me is that when I interviewed our readers, I heard the same message. For us, neutrality isn't perceived as passivity, it's perceived as a professional value. The challenge isn't so much about taking a stand, it's about making sure we're aligned on our role and principles before they're tested. The second lesson was about self-censorship. One researcher described how a liberal pressure can create a quiet disconnection. Journalists gradually avoid difficult topics to preserve access or reduce friction with their readers' sources. This is why self-censorship isn't just an individual issue. It's a newsroom issue. For us, this means strengthening the way we identify, discuss, and respond to pressure before it's too late. Another last lesson was that safety and mental health have become part of newsroom resilience. For a newsroom like ours, the main issue isn't necessarily physical safety. It's psychological pressure, exhaustion, and what some interviewees called moral injury. The most resilient organizations weren't asking journalists to endure more pressure. They were building support systems before they were needed. For us, this means treating psychological pressure and workload as newsroom challenges, not personal ones. So what do we do with these lessons? France's next presidential election is less than a year away. This September, we'll turn this capstone into a resilience project for context. We are creating a shared resilience board to give everyone in the company a common view of our vulnerabilities. What you see here is a small part of that board. It shows a few newsroom risks and some possible responses. The full board covers the entire company, from the newsroom to sales, marketing, tech and product, finance, and HR. In the coming weeks, we'll start focused on the biggest risks and decide what to do, who owns what, and how to make resilience part of everyday work. Let me leave you with one lesson that stayed with me. Find your friends before you need them. Across all interviews, one idea kept coming back. Prepare before the pressure arrives. Part of that preparation is building relationships with colleagues, other newsrooms, investors, press freedom groups, and of course, your audience. In other words, reach out before you need help. Because resilience is not about predicting the future. It is about making sure that whatever happens, we can keep doing journalism. If you'd like to receive the full article, you can leave your email through the link or QR code on this slide. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Clémentine. And I love the vibes in the chat, so let's keep it going. Just remember to, if you have any questions at any point for any of our presenters, please feel free to throw them in there. And once they're done, they'll be happy to take a look at those. All right, we're going to keep it going with Clyde Jiles. Welcome, Clyde.
Good morning. I'm Clyde Jiles, the COO of the Houston Defender Network. I want to begin with a quote by James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. For 95 years, the Houston Defender Network has been a trusted pillar of Black storytelling in the South. But today, independent and mission-driven newsrooms are facing a near constant state of financial instability. I chose this topic because I've seen what survival mode does to news organizations. Too many media companies are so busy worrying about making payroll, paying bills, and keeping the lights on that they never have the time or resources to build for the future. They end up working in the business instead of on it, leaving little room for innovation and for them to better serve their communities. This capstone isn't about mere survival. It is an operational blueprint to build a resilient media organization capable of thriving with a team of fewer than 10 people. The numbers tell the story. Northwestern University says the US has lost more than 1/3 of its newspapers since 2005. Many depended on website traffic, social media algorithms, and digital ads that couldn't sustain them. They grew big audiences, but relied too heavily on outside platforms instead of building steady, direct support from their communities. The lesson is simple. Lots of clicks don't guarantee long-term success. Consistent revenue does. We have to move away from the old model of chasing clicks and social media algorithms. Instead, the goal is to build a direct relationship with our audience and earn their trust. When people trust you, they come back. That loyalty creates stronger and more reliable income through events, videos, memberships, sponsorships, and philanthropy, reducing dependence on any single revenue source. Now, here's a visual of the 5 ideal interlocking pillars that I just mentioned. This is the ultimate goal. As you can see, not one single stream carries more than 30%, ensuring institutional resilience against economic shock, sponsor departure, or platform changes. For a small team, revenue alone doesn't matter. Profitability does. We track all real costs, including labor, equipment, and software, before measuring success. That helps us avoid hidden expenses and ensuring every project is worth the time and the resources invested in it. Before we start these projects, we calculate the net sustainability to make sure that, like I said, that they're worthwhile. Now, if the numbers don't work, you have to be comfortable walking away. For small teams, keeping 15 to 20% margins above expenses provides the flexibility to grow, invest, and weather slow periods. So we focus on simple measures of success: low membership cancellation, efficient fundraising, a strong newsletter engagement. When people consistently open and read our emails, it shows trust and loyalty, making our audience more valuable to sponsors and long-term partners. Now, we all know small teams can burn out by growing too fast. So we make it real simple with our start. Low-cost events, and only move to the next tier after successfully running 3 consecutive friction-free events. This step-by-step approach keeps growth manageable and aligned with real audience demand. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does AI fit into all of this? AI isn't just a productivity tool. It's a key part of long-term sustainability for small teams. By automating repetitive work and turning one story into many formats, we can do more with limited people and resources. That efficiency lowers cost, expands our reach, and lets our team focus on the work that creates the most value. We use AI to free our people to do meaningful work, amplifying human talent rather than replacing it. As this blueprint rolls out, my role as the COO must intentionally evolve. In year 1, I'll be focused on building systems and automating workflows. Year 2 and 3, I shift towards strategy as a 2 to 3 person team takes ownership. Video becomes a reliable revenue stream, and we expand to at least 1 new market. Year 4, I focus most entirely on strategy, driving long-term growth, smart investment decisions, and the Defender's lasting sustainability. In closing, I'm going to leave you with this quote: "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for." Financial sustainability is not a commercial compromise. It is the ultimate form of mission protection. This blueprint ensures that local independent journalism survives, thrives, and remains a trusted civic institution for the next century. Thank you. And yeah, and if you would like to, connect with me at any point in time, my email and my phone number are right there. And if you have the urge to donate to the Defender on this journey of sustainability, check out that QR code. Have a good one. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Clyde. All right, let us move on to Giovanny. We have Giovanny Vega-De Lleguas, who is up next. Welcome, Giovanny.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Giovanny Vega, Director of Innovation and AI at El Vocero, which is a newspaper in Puerto Rico. And today I would like to start with a simple question. What if the biggest stories are not the ones we publish, but the ones we never see? Let's talk about Puerto Rico. It may be small in size, but it is a highly complex news environment. 78 municipalities, a central government, dozens of public agencies, and a federal lawyer in Washington whose decisions often shape the island's economic and political reality. Now, let's focus on the people whose lives, concerns, and struggles journalism is supposed to reflect. Some of them begin to disappear, right? Not because they don't matter, but because journalism doesn't always see them. In a single month, 77% municipalities receive 5 articles or fewer. 12 municipalities receive 0 coverage. What that means? The coverage concentrates around the capital, San Juan, and the metropolitan area. That's metrocentrism, and it means that dozens of municipal governments receive leader-sustained journalistic oversight. Let's talk about sourcing. 79 to 97% of stories across 4 major Puerto Rican outlets relied on government or institutional sources. That's officialism, known as official source dependency. What's happening in the IA era? Some news gathering initiatives are aggravating the metrocentrism and officialism because government owns the biggest amount of organized data and because AI is trained on the newsroom patterns. I tested 4 large language models. I asked for recommended sources, potential stories, and news angles from Puerto Rico. Up to 95% of their recommendations were institutional, nothing from citizens. What I'm proposing, let's use the same technology that amplifies bias, but redirect it to fight it. AI can detect coverage gaps, surface community signals, prioritize underrepresented municipalities, and reduce dependency on institutional agendas. Here is the solution: an AI-powered municipal intelligence system designed to identify underrepresented communities, prioritize editorial opportunities, and expand newsroom visibility across all 78 municipalities. The objective is detecting editorial blind spot across the archipelago. A color-coded map allows editors to instantly visualize where potential coverage gap exists. Audience signals are adjusted using census population data, allowing small municipalities to be evaluated on a per capita basis, rather than competing directly with, for example, the capital, San Juan. When a municipality falls in the red category, a network of AI agents launches an investigation that begins by analyzing historical coverage patterns and audience behavior. The agents then examine municipal contracts, legislative activity, public records, and community input submitted throughout the newsroom WhatsApp and Telegram chatbot to identify stories that could help close the coverage gap. To reduce dependence on official sources, the platform applies a government penalty that lowers the priority of signals originating solely from government actors. The findings then are consolidated by a correlation agent, which surface reporting opportunities for newsroom consideration. When appropriate, the platform can also generate a first draft to be reviewed by journalists or editors. Editors receive via email a summary of the issue, supporting documents, relevant sources, the signals that triggered the investigation, and suggested reporting angles. The final decision, and this is important, the final decision always remains human. Editors determine whether to assign the story, request additional reporting, or dismiss the recommendation, all of them from the dashboard. Earlier, I mentioned a chatbot, right? It isn't just a traditional distribution tool. It is also a listening tool. It's available through WhatsApp and Telegram. Citizens can use it to ask questions and access information directly from the newsroom archive. But its most important function is what happens when it cannot answer a question. The chatbot treats that absence as a potential editorial signal. It logs the request into the dashboard and transforms unmet information needs into reporting opportunities. For trusted community leaders, a hidden command unlocks a structured contribution workflow. Instead of sending a simple question or a simple tip to the newsroom, users are guided through a series of questions that capture context, locations, stakeholders, and community impact, transforming concerns of the community into actionable editorial signals for the newsroom. Then, an AI agent conduct additional research and gather supporting documents to enrich the signal before it reaches the newsroom. Those community leaders are not random users. We select them, and they are part of a civic listening network intentionally built that includes educators, historians, and researchers. The plan is to grow the group. Story surfaces are integrated into both for print edition and the website in a dedicated web experience where readers can filter coverage by their municipalities. As you can see, the goal is not to produce more journalism. It's to produce journalism that better reflects the people, places, and realities of Puerto Rico. More coverage in underrepresented municipalities, more diverse sources and perspective, stronger local accountability, and fewer communities left outside the public conversation. Most newsrooms' AI initiatives focus on speed, efficiency, and producing more content. But the biggest opportunity isn't using AI to create more. It's using the same technology that amplifies bias, but redirect to fight it and reveal the stories that never reach the newsroom. Because the purpose of journalism has never been to follow the loudest voices. It's to make sure that every community has a chance to be heard. Thank you.
Great job, Giovanny. All right. Again, chat's open. Keep the good vibes going. We love it. And to keep the good vibes going, we've got Jan Schüßler. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you, Kyle. Hi, everyone. I'm Jan from Germany. As you might see, the country of the next World Cup winner, but that's not the topic today. Normally, I'm leading AI initiatives and strategy within our chief editorial office for ZDF, Germany's biggest public broadcaster. For my capstone, I built an interactive handbook for newsrooms. It is focused around AI and monetization and covers 3 steps to protect, price, and sell your content in the age of AI. Today, I want to show you what it is, which was not that easy to answer during the process, how every newsroom actually can use it, and why it works for publishers and broadcasters of any size. At its core, this is a working tool. It's an interactive web app that lives at ai-journalism-handbook.com. It should walk a newsroom from a starting point to a concrete plan, and hopefully it can help you at every level of AI maturity within your organization. The whole experience is built around 3 pillars: protect your content, optimize it for AI platforms, and future-proof your products. Today, I can only give you a glimpse of what's possible in the handbook, but hopefully it will make you a little bit curious. That said, if we look at the main framework behind these 3 pillars, we always start with protect. That is the foundation. So you stop unauthorized scraping, set monetization terms that travel with your content. After that, we go to optimize, which means make your content machine readable, define what's free and what's paid. And then the third part is future-proof. Here we talk about building AI-powered products on your own platform and establish a presence across the AI ecosystem now. Because we should not forget, the rules are still being shaped. One thing that is really important for working with this handbook, there are 3 ways into it, depending on your current focus. You could check the knowledge base by reading the market reality and the distribution model section. This is a current snapshot of what's happening between publishers and AI platforms. It is also possible to very quickly take the self-assessment, 6 questions, and you get a maturity level and a personalized starting point when it comes to dealing with AI companies. or you really work through all three pillars, check off concrete actions, and download a personalized strategy PDF for your team. So, but why does this thing exist and why is it needed? There are two parts. On one side, the market for publisher AI relationships is still being formed right now. Pricing, licensing, distribution standards. And most newsrooms, especially smaller ones, are watching or just reacting, but they do not act. And we must make sure that we do not repeat the mistakes from the search and social era where the rules were set for us. And on the other side, we should keep in mind that publishers have exactly what AI providers need. Verified, originally, locally sourced reporting that no model can generate on its own. So this leverage is real, and I want to help you with that, closing the gap between watching, reacting, and acting. And what I really want to emphasize is the first mover approach. That is the mindset behind it. Don't build for what AI companies say in public. Build for what they are actually doing, and especially what you think is right. This is about protecting journalism and not following the wishes of capitalistic companies. So one picture in the near future could be this. An AI demand agent arrives at your site looking for verified facts. It sees a preview, not the full article. You've pre-authorized the move, it looks, then buys access on our terms and our price. Now, you might rightly ask, yeah, okay, but what's the basis for the information anyway? There were 3 tracks running in parallel for months. My practice, day-to-day work leading editorial AI strategy for ZDF. Then there was a lot of research and continuous market observation with my coach, David. David, if you are listening, thank you for everything. And in the end, validation, structured interviews with industry experts. With all of that, the handbook is built continuously as a working tool and tested early and often with cohort members and other people from around the industry. With that capstone, there was also the decision about the format. A field moving that fast outdates static knowledge inside a few months. A PDF wouldn't survive the year. So the handbook isn't a document. It's a living, hosted, updatable resource, which I would love to connect with other strategic resources around AI and the developing market in the future. Please reach out if you are interested in building such an interactive knowledge base together for our industry. Right now, it's public, but just shared with a small group of publishers and cohort colleagues. Early feedback has been very encouraging, and there's already interest in featuring it more broadly. I've been holding off all of that until today after this presentation and hope for your interest now. The site is up there. I would be very grateful if you take a look, tell me what's missing, and I'm happy to continue that important conversation with all of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Jan. All right, up next we have Jessica Davis. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello, I'm Jessica Davis, Vice President of AI Product at USA Today Co., which includes USA Today and 200 local newsrooms across the United States and over 100 in the United Kingdom. I founded our company's AI Council nearly 4 years ago, which enables responsible use of AI across the enterprise. Today, I'll be sharing how newsroom and product leaders, both technical and non-technical, can be more strategic about when to put humans in the loop to scale AI without scaling risk. AI is shifting from assistive, working at your request, to giving it a goal and taking action on your behalf. In my 9 months of research, I spoke to dozens of news leaders across the globe. In these conversations, I found that not everyone understood the difference between assistive and agentic AI, with only a few fully experimenting in this space. I'm sharing an analogy that I learned from a CUNY instructor. Think of assistive AI as a mouth, speaking and generating words, and you have to take the action. Agentic AI is like the hands. Given a goal, it can take action autonomously. When we consider the future of work, especially for media organizations, reviewing every output puts a ceiling on what's possible to fully embrace the promise of agentic AI. Why I dug into this problem is that human in the loop, while important, puts a cap on how fast our industry can innovate at scale. Generative AI can fail subtly, and you might not even catch that it's wrong, putting at risk the trust we have with audiences. So I took a step back and asked, how might we create a new operating model? From human in the loop on every output to human on the loop, brought in strategically when most needed. I believe the answer to this is through AI evaluations, which evaluates if AI is doing its job correctly. Here's what AI evaluations look like in our experimentation at USA Today Co. with my AI product team in partnership with several of our newsrooms. Let's use an example of our first scaled agent, a public record request or FOIA bot called Digger, which we built in Microsoft Copilot Studio. First, define the task. For us, journalists wanted to file hundreds of record requests quickly. Secondly, start with what success looks like. It's a great way to start just with the SMART goal framework. For us, we needed it to be accurate and we needed the request to be returned. At first, the agent hallucinated or made up email addresses. That didn't work. And then we also needed to make sure that public agencies responded, and we have 50 states with different laws, so we needed those laws cited accurately as well. So then we moved to number 3, and we worked really closely with journalists on generating those record requests and improving that accuracy rate. It wasn't until we got to number 4 when we created a supervising agent, and we worked with a journalist, an LLM, and a technical product manager to test hundreds at a time. This is what that looked like, and you probably won't be able to see the specifics, but I wanted to show you what that supervising agent looked like. The scaling through a Copilot evaluation agent is allowing us to work across multiple states at the accuracy rate our journalists required, the upper 90th percentile. And we were able to go from taking months to deploy to production to shipping multiple features within days. And now we're talking with our data science teams on how we go beyond just this one tool outside the Microsoft environment. So what we learned from this, we let the LLM do the heavy lifting and give editors something to react to. This is faster and more accurate than reviewing every output. Journalists are so busy. They don't have time to fill out long forms. We heard this loud and clear. And this actually brought product and editorial together. The AI evals brought people together to collaborate, unified with a shared definition of success. In my research, I also spoke to engineers and product leaders at Microsoft and Google and researched how the Claude product team operates at such high speed. All these companies use AI evaluations. And this progression chart shows the building blocks of how you can go from beginner AI to advanced fast AI production at scale. This is what the always-on feedback loop looks like when you have AI evaluations to optimize an agent. What great AI evals do is that they create data, and that removes black boxes. And great data provides that feedback loop for continuous improvement and meeting of actual workflow needs. Here's the benefits of great evals. They build trust by removing that black box. They create clarity by being clear about what can AI actually do and when does it need more of an intervention. And it helps with speed, going from months to days to ship to production. This is the new governance model through accountability of AI that works for us. This shifts human in the loop to where it is needed most. Any newsroom leader can start with manual evals, nothing technical needed, just by generating SMART goals today. It does take a data science team to go at full scale across multiple AI workflows and systems, which is something that we are working on. We're sharing our journey to ensure more are aware of the power of AI evaluations. There's no need to solve for this alone. We believe at USA Today Co that this should be a shared standard. Frameworks can be shared. Data differentiates. We're already in talks with the Reuters AI team on how we can approach this together across our newsrooms and our organizations. In my research, just a handful of teams are scaling AI evaluations. Some are starting their journey, and most weren't aware of this practice. Contact me to continue the conversation. We're a stronger industry, a bolder and more innovative one when working together. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica. Up next, we have Joy Resmovits. Welcome, Joy.
Oh, found it. Hi. If you're watching this, you're either hunched over your computer at home or waiting to present, and that means you're nervous like me. When I get nervous, my pulse races and I have a tendency to talk way too fast. So I'm going to breathe and ground myself. You're welcome to join me. It may feel good. I'm going to make some circles from my neck. Oh, those cracks tell me I'm onto something here. I'm going to massage my jaw because I hold a lot of tension there. Whew. Okay. This is how I ground myself before I speak or sing in public. Every performer has their own version of these warm-ups, but almost no print journalist has ever been taught one, and that's one piece of the gap I'm trying to close. I'm Joy Resmovits, and this is the Theater of Trust, a new interdisciplinary framework and fully operational course that borrows from the performing arts, a field that has mastered how to capture and maintain people's attention at a time when we need it most. Now, most people are getting their news from social video, not news sites, as we learned from the new Reuters report last week. They're frequently watching creators. 3 numbers tell this story. 3 seconds. All the time you get before someone swipes past your video. That was fast, right? 37%. Trusted news just fell to its lowest point since 2015. 42%. That's how many people now actively avoid the news, up from 29% in 2017. This is a performance problem. Excellent, credible journalism is still being published, but audiences are encountering it less and less. Respondents told Reuters that creators are more entertaining and easier to watch and relatable, even if they're less trustworthy. We need to be able to compete with them. Some people have been doing this for a while, but many print journalists, like myself, we've been taught to be self-effacing, to disappear behind our bylines. Now we all have to be on camera. When viewers are watching, what do they see? As a Tony Award-winning designer told me, there is no neutral. In other words, every reporter who turns on a camera is already making choices. They may just not yet know what those choices convey, and I want to teach them. How did I end up here? I was a painfully shy and serious kid. I couldn't tolerate the noise of a vacuum cleaner, and I couldn't hear fireworks outdoors. 2 things got me out of my shell: theater and journalism. In recent years, I realized that my journalism was increasingly relying on my theater skills. And that makes sense because both of these disciplines require us to show up, be present, connect, and bring viewers along for the story. So why doesn't our training overlap? The performing arts spent centuries solving for the attention deficit we now face. I interviewed 25 news experts and artists, including actors, directors, choreographers, vocal coaches, a magician, and even an alum of Saturday Night Live. And I asked them, how do they attract and hold attention, and what could I steal for us? I turned my research into a course with 4 modules: script, choreography, set and wardrobe design, and audience connection, each one borrowing from performance craft, theory, or science. Here's what the course looks like. Students bring a story and build a corresponding video across the course. Each module builds on the last one, and in the final class, they actually film it with a scene partner. Just to be clear, this is an influencer training. I am not teaching you unboxing videos. It's also not a pivot to video that we saw 10 years ago. Audiences are already there for real. It is a way to learn presence, feel credible and comfortable playing yourself, and build trust and attention. I built and piloted this course at my workplace, The Trace, which is a nonprofit newsroom that covers gun violence. Lucky for me, this is the toughest use case I could have asked for, because why would a bunch of hard-boiled investigative crisis reporters want to engage in theater? Of course, there was skepticism at first, but it melted away at the first exercise. And this is what it looks like. I have them read their stories verbatim, which felt awkward to many of them, then tell it the way they would to their grandmother, someone who loves them but who doesn't know their beat or what impact is. Then they tell it to a charging lion who'll decide their fate in 3 seconds. Urgency. One young editor was hesitant, but here she thrived. During the lion exercise, she distilled her hook to, "So a girl got shot." Plain, simple, almost perfect for that story. Every reporter picks an objective, which is a concept from Stanislavski that describes an action verb that outlines the effect that they want their video to have on its viewer. This had the added benefit of helping reporters better focus the stories they were writing because it forced them to articulate a clear audience and impact pathway. Module 2 is choreography, which includes some of those warm-ups I showed you when I first started talking to you. We learn how to free the face, voice, and body, use our relationship with the camera to convey intimacy and authority, and identify nervous habits like the dead eyes that turn readers off so often or make them think that we're AI. In Module 3, we learn about set and wardrobe, developing what I've started to call the competent lo-fi standard, a space that's polished enough to look like you put some thought into it, but not so curated that it looks disingenuous. To develop this lesson, I spoke to someone who designs props for Succession, the stage designer I mentioned earlier, and the guy who picked out the bathtub tiles for Joker. He knows a lot. We talked about how to produce for trust. In Module 4, we address engagement, treating the viewer like an active participant using calls to action that bring people in. They learn to address the camera like it's a person, not a crowd. Here's some of the feedback I got, and I'm probably going to blush when I read this one, but this training was incredible. It makes the daunting endeavor of bringing stories to video a tangible step-by-step process. The other feedback you see here echoes that. Practical, structured, different, useful, and even a little fun. Now, I'm finishing the pilot at the Trace. I just finished teaching modules 1, 2, and 3, and will soon teach module 4 and share out my KPIs. I'm also launching a Substack and submitting to conferences. I'd like to pilot the course in a different workplace. Eventually, I intend to grow a website and launch a tiered product, which could include different types of teaching engagements with in-person and virtual classes, one-on-one coaching, and all kinds of different ways to slice and dice what I've learned. But everyone I interviewed said something profound and interesting, something that journalists need to hear. And those conversations are now becoming a newsletter, which you can find at theateroftrust.substack.com if you can't get this QR code to work. I invite you to subscribe, get in touch, or try the course. Bring me to your newsroom. I can promise we'll have a real good time. The curtain is up. Come find me.
Thank you so much, Joy. I definitely feel a lot more grounded right now. So thank you so much for that. Y'all, we are halfway through these presentations, which is crazy. It's just been such a good time so far, and everyone's been doing such an amazing job. But we still have so many amazing projects coming up here. So without further ado, we're going to keep it going. We have Julia Klanovic-Trefzer. Welcome, Julia. You have to hit next.
Now, hello everybody. My name is Julia Klanovic-Trefzer. I'm a journalist and I'm also closely connected to the medical field. There's no clear moment when people decide to take action on their health. It often starts with uncertainty. A friend gets diagnosed, a symptom appears, and suddenly people start searching. Within minutes, they find hundreds of recommendations. Everything sounds important, but nothing feels specific to them. This gap between information and action is not new. But for the first time, technology makes it possible to close it. Over the years, one thing has stayed with me. Medicine is complex, and most doctors are not trained to communicate it clearly. That is where I see my role. I spent 20 years turning complex topics into clear stories. Now I'm building a new type of journalistic product, one that doesn't just inform people, but help them decide what to do next. The product is called CIVO. This is what CIVO could look like, for example, in the New York Times. It appears right next to a health article. With one click, users can start their prevention profile. They answer a few simple questions about their age, family history, and lifestyle. Based on that, CIVO provides personalized prevention recommendations. The medical logic behind these recommendations is reviewed by clinicians and follows established guidelines. We use AI only behind the scenes to help keep the knowledge base up to date. Every recommendation is checked and linked to a clear source. So users don't have to trust a black box. They can always see where the information comes from. The result is a personalized prevention profile. But why would they come back? CIVO does not store sensitive health data. Instead, users receive a personal code. Think of it as a key. CIVO is the lock. When their situation changes or guidelines are updated, they return with their key and generate a new report. The data stays with the user. The recommendations stay up to date. CIVO is being developed with the Institute of Medical Informatics at Charité Berlin, one of Europe's leading hospitals. I also interviewed patients, physicians, and health experts. The same insight came up every time. What people are missing is not more information. It is trusted guidance that connects the dots. And that is what makes this powerful for publishers. Media companies are under pressure. Users come, read, and leave. Keeping them engaged is one of the biggest challenges today. CIVO turns a one-time reader into a returning user. Because a prevention profile grows with you over time, and that gives people a real reason to come back. More returning users means more subscriptions. For this to work, publishers and users need to trust it. So tell me, I want to tell you about how I make sure the content is reliable. CIVO is based on medical guidelines that have already been approved by experts. So I translate existing guidelines into personalized guidance. To ensure this stays reliable over time, I'm establishing an art-independent clinician advisory board together with Charité to oversee and update the matching logic. And when it comes to data, no personal health information is stored by CIVO, the publishers, or the clinician partner. I have an example outside of medicine and journalism. You know that Germans love their cars, but they also love their privacy. When you configure a car online, you end up with a very individual profile. At the end, you get a code. No account, no name, no trace. That code recreates your exact configuration. CIVO works the same way. You answer a few questions, you receive a personal key, and that key recreates your prevention profile without storing anything about you. What comes next? The next step is building the MVP with Charité, the hospital in Berlin, focused on breast cancer prevention. Once it proves itself, we expand to other diseases. I've already applied for digital health funding, and in parallel, I am reaching out to media partners. 3 questions will validate the model. Do users complete the journey? Do they return? Does it create real value for publishers? If yes, we scale. Prevention requires more than understanding. It requires orientation, timing, and action. CIVO explores whether journalism can evolve from informing people to helping them navigate decisions, not by replacing medical expertise, but by translating trusted information into personalized guidance people can actually use. That is the role journalism can play. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Julia, for talking about such an important issue. Up next, we have Marian Jiaming Liu. Welcome, Marian.
I am so short.
Back up. You're like. Hi, everybody. Sorry about my height. I had to adjust there. Thanks to everybody for taking time to listen to our talks today. I'm Marian, the audience and product lead at the Florida Trib. And while I've worked with all kinds of audiences, local, national, international, from the Seattle Times, Washington Post, and CNN in Hong Kong, local is where I first fell in love with journalism and where it's essential to our daily lives. I'll be showing you how I'm leading and scaling a new statewide collaborative. According to a Northwestern report on the state of local news, Florida ranks last in the number of media per capita of any state, while facing lowest reading scores, frequent national disasters, high firearm ownership, rising healthcare costs. So who is holding power accountable? So we need to come together, connecting everyone, legacy, nonprofit, and universities, to divide and conquer coverage, to close these news gaps, by identifying what everyone is covering and training students to close these gaps, by sharing training, tools, and publishing workflows, and building a statewide reporting network. This photo is actually from when the university partners first met, so you can see our smiling faces. This grew out of my work for the Florida Trib, a news nonprofit that started in 2021, where I helped scale city to statewide coverage. This past March, I started gathering interest, building on my past relationships from my years as an editor at the South Florida Sun Sentinel and serving on 2 boards for Florida International University. Now we are 24 organizations strong, 12 nonprofits with many NPR affiliates, 6, love to have 60, 6 legacy media, including Miami Herald and Orlando Sentinel, as well as television stations, and 5 universities. And here you see all the partners mapped out, and you can easily see where the gaps are in black. You can see the spread of all 24 of us across the state and where the news deserts are. So what opened doors? We had a shared problem. We had limited resources and capacity, but also a shared mission to expand information dependent on our shared trust. Relationships really opened the door. A clear value proposition brought partners in. We secured the partners because we made participation easy. We share one unpaid wall story and you get access. And with bi-weekly meetings and a shared toolkit, we are ready to rock and roll. We picked a high impact, low coverage, little accountability area, actually one of Florida's biggest blind spots, the upcoming school board elections. It's ground zero for national fights over books, race, religion, and gender, and the birthplace of Moms for Liberty, now a major national political force responsible for banning books. These school board elections are also a launchpad for future politicians. Learning from coverage from the last school board election, 2024, there's a lot to build on. More than a third of counties had no identifiable coverage. Many of these stories relied on questionnaires or brief summaries. Few helped voters really understand candidates beyond their prepared answers. And much of this coverage was behind paywalls, forcing the voter to turn to social media, like these 2 Facebook posts, asking where to even find information on their counties. As we are coming together, there are a lot of challenges to figure out, so we are prioritizing news gaps and processes, looking at district size, news deserts, contested races, and proximity to partners, making sure we coordinate our workflows, keeping in mind skill levels. And so we learn from proven models, checking in with the University of Maryland, who helps students with no interview experience with training and structure. We adopted their Google survey questionnaire to interview candidates, but instead of emailing it, we made this a framework to call the candidates and do reporting. And learning from Solutions Journalism Network and Cal Matters, operationalizing collaboration was key. So we developed shared tools and are brainstorming out audience engagement, creating shared language across shared coverage. The vehicle is a shared toolkit. Do you see this? We're sharing everything, all one Google Drive for easy access, starting with a participation survey to check what counties are being covered and making sure there's a code of ethics adhered to, and working with University of Florida on a candidate intelligence dashboard that not only makes reporting easier, but also levels the playing field, scraping candidate information for their contacts, residency, and financial info, so reporters can spend less time verifying basics and more time on profiles and accountability reporting, and also developing standardized interview questions off of University of Maryland.
And we agreed on a timeline to cover the election with cushion, doing first training actually later today, reporting a sprint into July and with early voting in August, spreading out our work across this past spring and summer, pushing forward post-election to review how it all meshed together and can expand. And how our operational reality looks now, because we are in the thick of it, especially with training later today, because early momentum with strong partner interest and a clear mission to close news gaps with these shared tools, and partners already seeing value in our statewide visibility. We are learning that constant communication is also necessary with simple and consistent workflows, all the while continuously building on trust. Long term, we are measuring our success against the 2024 coverage, increasing coverage, audience, skills across partners, and growth, with the goal of building lasting statewide infrastructure so we can tackle coverage beyond the school board election, like impeding hurricanes and the presidential election, while building out more capacity and a pool of student interns and editors in order to unlock funding and partnership. So no community is left uncovered. Thank you all. Here's my email and LinkedIn. Let's collaborate together. Would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Marian. All right. Up next, we have Marie-Claire Fennessy. Welcome, MC.
Hi, and thanks for joining. My name is Marie-Claire, and I'm an editorial newsroom leader at Reuters. Today, I'm talking to you about something that is critical for all of you, regardless of the size of your newsroom, your audience type, or platform. That human editor or final pair of eyes checking your content before publication for accuracy and editorial excellence. Today, in this AI era, a new phrase has emerged: the human in the loop. My question for you is your human in the loop thinking? Humans make mistakes. We've always needed that human reviewer. However, from speaking to industry leaders, it became apparent that the human in the loop role was defined before AI entered our newsrooms and not updated since. AI is increasingly being used across different areas of the newsrooms for different functions. It is being developed and integrated at speed. However, can the same be said of your human reviewer workflows? That combination of a fluent AI output, deadline pressures, biases from frequent AI use could result in a quick, light review, allowing a mistake to slip through. My argument is this is not a human failure, but a system one. I am presenting a framework moving our human in the loop from the end of the AI chain to across it. The consequence of getting this wrong is it can be reputationally damaging and breaks trust with our audiences. And it's happened to all of us, where we have been tripped up by an AI-assisted output. So, to explore the question of human oversight, I conducted interviews with industry peers and ran a small pilot at Reuters. Our pilot was developed using Peter Senge's approach to building a learning organization and systems thinking. Why? Because AI is constantly evolving. And to keep a pace with that, organizations and individuals will benefit from adopting a learning mindset. So what do? Over 90 days in our small pilot, we started with building out foundational knowledge about AI, prompt engineering, evaluations. We also built a first version of an AI skill. So how does it work? It's input, a shot list, a press release, interview notes, third-party info, and its output, a draft version of a script. This is only for simple, non-sensitive stories. Throughout the pilot, we saw automation bias, anchoring bias, which is where you rely too heavily on the first piece of info on a topic. It therefore became an anchor. This caused us to pause and consider, how might AI be impacting our critical thinking? The research on this is still emerging. Some have found AI use can reduce cognitive load, freeing you up to do more complex thinking. Other research suggests an over-reliance on AI may cause our cognitive abilities to decline. Think of it as a muscle. If you fail to use it, it loses strength. So, this is a list of key findings from the pilot and industry interviews. I will talk about two specifically. The first one, an active human in the loop needs to be built across the AI chain. System thinking considers how changing one part of the workflow might have an unintended consequence elsewhere. As we were testing our AI skill, which created a draft script, we noticed AI was framing the story. It chose what to lead with. This is not what we wanted. So to fix for this, we added intentional friction, a mandatory critical thinking step. We decided the framing direction must be written and submitted by the journalist as part of the input into the tool. If this is missing, our tool asks for it. Obvious, right? But are your tools doing this? Second, language matters. In one tool we tested, it scanned a script and highlighted errors and offered up corrections. Sounds good, right? Depends. Here, AI was highlighting inconsistencies. By using the words error and correction, the tool anchored the journalist towards a specific answer. Our recommendation was remove error and correction and prompt the journalist to clarify, keeping the decision-making and verification process with the human. The issue is the system. It's not AI. It's not the human. It requires workflows with intentional editorial design input. The BDA framework addresses this by breaking down workflows to before AI, during AI, and after AI use. BDA. Before AI, the example is the framing question. During AI, remember how language can be used in tools. Are we nudging our journalists to an answer or prompting for clarification? After AI, the human editor reviews. Here, critical thinking training and audit logs are important. This is not about slowing our journalists down, but introducing targeted friction at critical points to ensure our systems are supporting our editorial teams. So I've broken it down into what I feel could be helpful. I'm going to pull out two, one for this week and one for this quarter. First, audit your AI tool for language. Are you prompting for clarification? And two, crucially, bring your teams together. AI requires us to work and think differently. An integrated team approach, bringing your designers, product, engineers, and editorial supports this. Combining them protects and builds a stronger product and strengthens our editorial output. So for me, my next steps are building out a critical thinking rubric to strengthen our training and story debriefs, and a risk level assessment to apply to the BDA framework. Feel free to reach out to talk more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, MC. All right. Let's move on to Michael Olson. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Olson, Deputy Managing Editor at Minnesota Public Radio News. During this past year at CUNY, I ran a few public-facing pilots that demonstrate an opportunity for public media. From those pilots and from trusted approaches with NPR, I've created an editorial conversion blueprint that builds on public media's strengths and could help sustain its future. Let's take a look. The editorial approach starts with a simple public service goal: help people get the quality information they need to make informed decisions. So for newsroom and product teams, that means developing coverage that is trusted, useful, and connected to daily routines of people. And for our membership and marketing teams, it creates a clear product and process to grow and reach and build relationships around. Done well, this approach turns public service journalism into a stronger audience relationship and a more sustainable path for public media newsrooms. The challenge is well known. AI overlays are tanking search traffic for newsrooms. Social media platforms are making it harder for followers to leave those platforms to become friends. A friend is a direct relationship with a newsroom, so a registration, an email, or an SMS. Organizations that build trust on these rented relationships or these platforms with rented relationships are the ones that will create opportunities for direct audience connection. For search, cover unmet news needs. At NPR, Minnesotans tell us they want trustworthy, locally relevant reporting that helps them navigate civic life, understand how decisions are made, and know how to respond. On social, be relevant. Understand how audiences are using social and give them what they need on those platforms. And then to the conversion point, personalize when possible. These people have expressed a high intensity. They're very interested and make the most of it. You can do this with high quality calls to action that deliver. Make a compelling offer. This is where trust is earned on these rented platforms. And then that is what exactly converts over to your own spaces. So when you think about the content that people want on social, I think about it in 3 buckets related to this project. Synthesis. You want to meet the moment with the right format. So NPR is increasingly digital first and video forward, but we don't always lead with a social video. In some circumstances, we'll start with a social card. It's a breaking news. You don't have a full story, but you need to get the information out there. We hold off until we have more facts and something more complete for social video. Civic focus. Center the audience's need on, and you want to keep it distinct from political framing. This doesn't mean that people don't want political coverage, but they don't want it framed necessarily through a political lens, but they're very, very much craving civic engagement. And so center it around that civic engagement. The other thing, you know that you're doing it well when you're able to help the audience sift through the noise. Are you able to answer, does this story matter to our audience? Ultimately, this comes down to a relevance challenge, which is nothing new for journalism, but it is in these new spaces, figuring out how to navigate that. Younger audiences are asking journalists to make relevance explicit. Why a story matters, how it affects their communities, and what it helps them understand about the world they are inheriting. For public media, this is as much a strategy question as it is an editorial one. The focus on relevance brings clarity to our newsroom in every moment. That clarity helps our team make sound editorial choices, even during intense news cycles. When Renee Good was shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, speculation and inaccurate accounts of the shooting flooded social media. Officials had a narrative, and our journalists on the streets identified another perspective that hadn't been shared. After putting it against our relevance and trust lens, we published the video. It stood out by moving beyond the official statements to a verified, on-the-ground, first-person account from Good's neighbor, Emily Heller. It is a clear example of a social video that helps audiences understand a story through lived experience, community impact, and immediate context. So over the last 12 months, we've doubled our followers and increased our engagement by 40%. Our newsroom did that with fewer posts and an intense focus on what the audience needs. So after trust is earned in these rented spaces, we get into the call to actions. And these calls to action are really driven by events. So think of this as a storm, an election, a local update from my school board. These are what make followers friends. So thinking around the NPR weather text. Subscribers will sign up when there's a storm. Then they stay on our list for the daily forecast. And you might wonder, why would someone with a perfectly fine weather app on their phone want to get a daily forecast from a meteorologist? Well, it's personal, and it's also habit forming. So this daily weather content is a very significant pathway to deeper content that we offer, our enterprise and investigative reporting. Personalized voter guides also have built connections for us. During the last municipal election in Minnesota, our voter guide drove 6,000 email signups that we retain today. NPR is currently surveying this audience to understand how election guides can be even more relevant to their lives, decisions, and communities. The goal here is to build a guide that is not only useful for them, but something that they want to share with their community. Relevance also retains and deepens existing relationships. Our newsroom ran a pilot to localize our statewide daily newsletter that covers all of our content on a given day. And in these target markets, we offered 3 things to know locally and local weather. More engagement followed. This editorial blueprint is rooted in helping people get quality information to empower them to make informed decisions. It's an approach that can make public service newsrooms thrive. So here's my LinkedIn, my email. I'll be in the chat. I'm here to collaborate, take your questions, let me know what's on your mind, and thank you all for your time today.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. Up next, we have Raina Kempt. Welcome, Raina.
Hi, my name is Raina Kempt, and I'm the Director of Operations for Content AI at USA Today Co. I want you to think about why you became a journalist. Whether it was a story you read that changed how you saw the world, a community you wanted to give a voice to, or the truth you were seeking, there was a reason behind that passion. And it wasn't to compile a list of 10 things to do this weekend. But that's how a lot of our journalists are spending their time. Today, you will learn what we did to change that. Since 2005, 270,000 newspaper jobs have disappeared. The people left are doing more across more platforms with less time. A lot of that workload is commodity content, calendars, listicles, trending explainers. It drives page views, but it doesn't require actual reporting. It requires time. And when journalists are sitting at their computer building an events list, they're not cultivating sources, chasing investigations, or building the relationships that break news. The opportunity isn't to eliminate that commodity content. We need all of it. It's to make journalists stop producing it manually. On the Content AI team, we use AI and automation tools with that mission in mind. In 2024, we began using an internally built generative AI tool we call Espresso to turn press releases into publish-ready articles. Press releases were something many of our newsrooms stopped rewriting because of a lack of resources. Since then, Espresso has delivered over 19,000 articles, 1,500 subscriptions, and 6 million page views. But success still revealed a gap. Espresso is a simple rewriting tool, and newsrooms told us they needed help earlier with discovery and research before the writing. So I added a large language model called Perplexity, which we have an enterprise license with, as the research layer. I began building spaces, also called agents, for the 2 use cases newsrooms told us they wanted most. Didn't require original reporting and were also high value to readers. That's calendar of events and renews. Renews turns existing network coverage into fresh localized angles. And we were just as deliberate about what we won't do as what we will. No crime, no politics, nothing that requires human discernment and original reporting. Here's the framework underneath both. Research, verify, draft, publish. Step 3, verify, is non-negotiable. Every source gets clicked and confirmed by a journalist before anything moves forward. I hand-selected 5 to 10 journalists per use case to pressure test the spaces, a mix of AI believers and skeptics. We spent 5 weeks together. Weekly syncs and a structured survey after every use gave the task force real ownership over what we were building. That feedback surfaced 3 real blockers: attribution accuracy, article format, preferences, paywall friction. We were able to fix all 3. We added format options and built a paywall workaround with the more permanent fix in development. The goal was no hallucinations, 90% error-free. We hit that goal. Now let's see how it works. What you're about to watch is the Renew generator space in action. A journalist has a story that already ran on the USA Today network site. They paste the URL of that story into the space with a simple templated instruction. I want to renew this story. Here's the URL. Here's my market. From there, the space searches across relevant USA Today network coverage from any of our 200 sites to inform the output. And it's hardwired to stay within that approved coverage. Within seconds, Perplexity returns up to 6 localized options, each with a suggested format, like an explainer or 5 things to know. The key elements each angle also includes timing considerations. The journalist picks one, verifies every source link for accuracy, and gets a full draft. Alongside that draft, it will provide a paragraph-by-paragraph source map showing exactly what every fact came from, and finally, a clean CMS-ready version, including subheads and hyperlinks ready for publish. Here's some of the feedback from members of the Super User Task Force, and the quotes on this slide speak for themselves. Our task force consists of journalists like news directors, digital producers, and audience managers. This feedback was drawn from a few places, including the feedback survey and private messages to me. It's a game changer. I was skeptical, and this has broken me out of my habit, all the way to this would have given me years of my life back. These are powerful statements that speak to the intentionality of the tool and its ability to change the way we work. So what now? We've completed super user testing in late May and received AI Council approval to move forward. We are now in select launch. The journalists who put in the work to test and give feedback in the task force are the first to publish. That's intentional. First access is a reward for their time and candidness. Right now, the focus is on continuing to scale responsibly, building the training process and making sure the workflow holds up across more newsrooms outside of the pilot group. You can't just flip a switch on something like this. The architecture has to be ready before the volume is. Through the rest of 2026, we scaled network-wide. By October, I hope to have new use cases like turning sports box scores into drafts up and running. A few things this project has taught me. The one I put on every wall and any newsroom thinking about AI. You cannot design this in a vacuum. It has to be built with your journalists, not just sent as a mandate. It's the entire reason any of this will work. And the proof is already showing up. A USA Today journalist used the calendar of event space alongside human reporting to create class action lawsuit and student loan deadline stories. Those stories pulled nearly 500,000 page views across our site and Apple News. Another thing I learned, you can't build one workflow and hope it fits everywhere. So we built flexibility in. Journalists can run the full pipeline or stop at the research layer and take it from there themselves. They can choose the format that they think is best for them and their newsroom. And this really gave more control back to the journalists. I'd love to keep talking about this beyond today. If you have questions, want to go deeper on the workflow, or are thinking through something similar at your own organization, my contact info is on the screen. Please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raina. All right, we just have 5 presentations left, everybody. We are going to keep the energy up. Let's do it. We have some really great ones coming up here too. So to kick things off, we have Simon Galperin. Welcome, Simon.
Hello, I'm Simon Galperin, founder and executive editor of the Jersey Bee. We're a local civic media organization dedicated to helping people meet their basic needs, connect with their neighbors, and shape the institutions and systems that shape their lives. The Jersey Bee launched in 2020 at a tumultuous time, and times have only gotten harder. But today I'm lucky to share the Jersey Bee's 2030 vision with you and ask you to join us for the next part of our journey. Much of what we do today started in some way in this parking lot. When we launched, I spent almost every Friday for the first 18 months of the pandemic distributing food to dozens of families from the back of a food pantry van at this elementary school. If you've never gotten food from a food pantry, it's mostly canned or dried goods, often fresh fruits and vegetables, occasionally hot or frozen meals. One week you'll get donated bread from the bakery and the next grocery store bagels, which, if you know New Jersey, is a crime in its own right. Families scheduled their whole weeks around these distributions and waited in line every Friday, rain or shine. Then one Friday in late December, the van didn't come. The food pantry couldn't make it that week. And a dozen families who had scheduled not just their time, but their meals around these 2 bags of food went home cold, wet, and hungry on New Year's weekend. In the Jersey Bees community, at least 1 in 5 households isn't able to get enough food to feed themselves weekly. What I witnessed that day is something essential to know about how this country treats its poor and working people. It is not enough to be hungry. You also have to suffer the neglect of the systems that say they're meant to help you. And it's a feeling I think all of us share in some way. And what I learned that day is that our communities have no dedicated way to communicate, whether it's about the week's food delivery, where to get help with your utility bill, or the new business down the street. There are no public pipes for the flow of civic news and information. Our role at the Bee is to be that local public infrastructure for the people who need it most. The practices we developed in the first few months of launch have since become an essential methodology at the Bee. It's how we responded to food access needs. We listened to people, gathered information or resources to help, and delivered it to them. We did this by distributing 2,000 handmade masks, launching text message services, and delivering information on food pantries and other resources. And we did the same with local news and information, tabling and canvassing to learn people's needs, gathering information that could help, and delivering it to them through a daily newsletter, website, and more. And in service, we learned people's lives don't end at the town border. So we expanded in 2023 to 12 towns and cities. And today we serve a market of 700,000 people. Along the way, we won recognition from local, national, and international institutions, from everything from our police investigations to our youth programs. This year, we were named a finalist in the Next Challenge for Media. And in this process, what makes the Jersey Bee unique became clear. It wasn't who we serve or what we produce, it's how and why. First is through Harvest, a patent-pending curation system that turns a fire hose of online information into a structured newswire, packaged across 13 newsletters, our site, calendar, and social. Last year, we produced 5,000 news briefs using Harvest, with just 1.5 full-time editorial staff. And the other is our methodology, which we call civic information design, where we use research-backed methods to identify information needs and address them with appropriate interventions, because not every problem can be solved with an article. On this slide, you can see one part of our method, the information hierarchy of needs, which sets our agenda by depicting our community's basic, personal, and social needs, and what they need to grow and become the best version of themselves. We explore these topics through a process borrowed from the clinical method used in doctors' offices, or user-centered design frameworks used in tech companies. These civic info design systems and methods are built on the only peer-reviewed standard for whether local news meets community needs. Taken together, these unique approaches let us deepen and expand service at a very low marginal cost, unlocking 2 approaches to sustainability that weren't there before for high-quality, hyperlocal digital news. A scalable, hyperlocal B2C media business, and an exploratory B2B white label service for major institutions and employers, leveraging our proprietary curation system to gather, sort, and deliver human-verified information to different stakeholders and departments, just like we deliver local news to the communities we serve. In the last year, I built a plan to put the Jersey Bee on a path to becoming the state's leading local news provider, leveraging our unique position to imagine new ways to serve our community and sustain our work. We'll begin over the next 4 years by investing in technology and staff to turn our startup into an institution that can withstand the troubles to come and remain in service to those who will be most troubled. From there, we'll continue our growth into more corners of the state, deepening our service and making life easier for working people in New Jersey. And as I end, I'll ask you to think about how you can help the Jersey Bee. Not for me, but for the people who make the Jersey Bee every day and the people they serve. For that, I'll leave you with a note we received from a subscriber recently. His name is Alex, and he is the father of 2. I ran into you at a street fair, and I've been reading your daily local emails since. It's not an exaggeration to say you've changed the course of my family's life. We are part of a local homeschooling co-op that has become our little community and has made all the difference to our happiness and well-being in these deeply troubling times. It all started with one event I suggested my wife attend because I read about it in one of your emails. Being aware of what is happening locally has done so much to pull our family out of the isolation of contemporary life in New Jersey and America. Your work is a rare source of hope for me personally, and I am forever grateful. What I appreciate most about this story is how it shows how easy it is for journalists to improve people's lives. For Alex, his kids, and the millions of New Jerseyans who mainstream media has left behind, just one sentence can change their future. Just like how your contribution to the Jersey Bee can change our future, no matter how small. I welcome you to learn about the Bee, sign up and donate at jerseybee.org or by scanning the QR code you see on your screen now. Listen, gather, deliver. That is the future of local news, and I welcome you to join us there. Thank you.
Very inspiring, Simon. Thank you so much. All right, up next we have Sophie Thal. Welcome, Sophie.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie Thal. I am the journalistic editor-in-chief at Sebastian. That's a digital newspaper in Denmark without any ads. It has a membership model and a strong and distinct tone of voice. We make long-form audio and text stories with the journalists at the center. We have around 45,000 members, and since founded 10 years ago, Sebastian has been extremely proud of having around 40% of its members being in their 20s and 30s. But this is changing slowly, but our members are getting slightly older. And part of the reason might be that we are a little late to the video game. Let me begin by saying we were once very much the cool kids. Very early on, we pivoted to audio because our members asked for it. And this is how we wanted to consume stories ourselves as well. We were really doing something new in Denmark, and other newspapers were behind. 80% are now consuming via audio in our app. Fast forward to 2026, everything is video now, and we haven't really moved too fast on that one. We do not currently have video in our app. We all know the way things are going. People under 35 who have to become members between now and 2030 increasingly arrive through video. We also know the numbers. Things have really changed. Young people trust creators. They go to video. They're very hard to lure into our own platforms. Meanwhile, our own member base is, as I said, slightly aging, and not implementing video seems like it could be a real risk to our media and to our mission. But it's also not without risk to pivot to video. Sebastian is a media with depth, nuance, and a long-form content. And video kind of honor the opposite. So right now we're doing pretty well on social media, actually, TikTok, and we have an Instagram following of 100,000. But we aren't really converting, and the content isn't 100% representing the depth of our journalism. So the question I've been asking myself in this capstone is, how do we give the younger audiences what they expect from media, both inside our app and out on social media, without losing our identity and our competitive edge? I decided to create a strategy memo for my capstone, a foundation on which to make decisions. So I built the memo on 3 steps, 6 interviews with people who have actually added video to their deep journalism. I built it on current research and on Zetland's own context. I was very recently appointed the editor-in-chief in January, so my questions got a little bit sharper as I went along. And I ended up creating a set of principles on which we have to create all our video. So let me take you through them. First, where does the video live? Video is a tool, not a destination. We're not building a video brand. Video serves to journalism, and the destination is always our own app. And repurposing is our operating model. Most of our video exists because we already made the underlying work in another form. So original from scratch is the very rare, if ever, exception. And who carries it? The future is named trusted, followable journalists. We know this from the research. And it is my belief that we succeed by investing in a recognizable house style with our own trusted, skilled reporters. And we don't partner with creators. We make our own reporters into Zetland-style creators. Each piece has to earn its place. What is this doing that our audio and text could not? If the answer is weak, then maybe we should spend our energy elsewhere. And very importantly, it has to be recognizably us. Along with these principles, I also created red lines. We will not cross whatever the numbers say. And well, the simplest one is easy. No trends, no dances, none of that. Where the platform style fights our version, the Zetland version always wins. So this was my overall takeaway, actually. It really was from my conversations with my interviewees. It is, we have to be true to our DNA. This is what will help us. One of my interviewees asked, could a longtime member recognize this video as ours without the logo and feel it earned their attention? Because we always need the voice and the depth to be Zetland. So during my work, I also looked around at the newsroom to see how video ready we actually are right now. And looking around, I truly believe we do have the talent. Zetland is built on first-person journalism, reporters you know and trust, and you follow their obsessions along with them. Just look at all these amazing, quirky expressions. This is really a great advantage to us. In the second video up there, Johanna is telling the 2 truths about Michael Jackson, and all the way to the right, Masolik is asking what are we most excited about during the national elections this spring. So yes, our journalists already sound like themselves on tape. Our social media team is great. The gap that was missing was the set of principles, in my belief. Throughout my research, I also, partially at least, had my worry about video making content shallow contested. The American YouTuber Johnny Harris has 7.5 million subscribers for long deep dives on complicated issues. So we have to believe that the audience is there for us as well. These principles are a starting point. They're not a finished plan. This fall, our CTO and I take it into real decisions. Next, we'll figure out the following. What does success look like in numbers? How are we embedding these principles that are now on a slide in the actual culture? And we have to figure out what our members, our kind of particular members, want from video and not what the global research says. That was it from me. Thank you very much. And please do reach out if you have any insights or recommendations or want to chat about it all. Thank you.
Great job, Sophie. All right, just 3 more to go. Up next, we have Sumi Agarwal. Welcome, Sumi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sumi Agarwal. I've had the privilege of working in a lot of different kinds of newsrooms, from my hometown newspaper to 60 Minutes to the Center for Investigative Reporting. And what I've seen is how our relationships with our audiences have been changing over the years, regardless of platforms. So I started this Capstone project wanting to understand if there were any tactics, or dare I say it, even hacks that we could shortcut to reinvigorating those relationships with our audiences to make them more durable, more engaging. And my project, called After the Algorithm, is a result of that work. So we know a lot of the dire audience trends, but I did want to highlight a couple of particularly horrific ones. Last month, Google had their annual developer conference, and at that conference, they announced a new chat version of search powered by AI. They called it Search Reimagined. We journalists know that this is Search Zero. The era of 10 blue links is over. Already, search traffic is down 38% year over year to US news outlets. And we know that when an AI summary is served, only 8% of readers click through to the actual source. How many of us have been to conferences where people are like, but people trust us, they're going to want to click through? The stats are telling us something very different. They are perfectly happy with the summary. And last week, the Reuters report came out and found that more than half of adults under 30 get their news from influencers. We knew that. And in case you are not depressed enough, let me end with this morsel. More than 3,500 local news outlets have closed in the US since 2005. But there is good news. The audiences have not just disappeared. They've just moved to different places. And the challenge is they've moved to places that we don't control. So I wanted to figure out, how can we bring those audiences back to us? How can we reinvigorate those relationships? I spent 6 months conducting over 30 interviews with news leaders who are figuring it out in real time, on the ground, on the front lines. I paired those primary conversations with findings with more than 60 industry reports. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who took the time to speak with me. And what I built from all of this is a web-based modular field guide designed for immediate and practical use. I did not want a white paper. I wanted something that those of us who are navigating these challenges can refer to and try out in our own newsrooms. You can read it straight through in about 25 minutes, or you can navigate directly to your particular audience pain point and get evidence-based tactics and practices that you can experiment with right away. My hope is that if we can renew those audience relationships, we can then figure out how to build a sustainable model for journalism. What I found, the key takeaway, is that newsrooms who are finding their stable footing right now have stopped acting like content producers. They have started thinking of themselves as community infrastructure. They aren't surviving and thriving because they've magically found a bigger budget and some donor has come through, or that they found some great AI-powered technology. They are surviving and thriving because they have fundamentally shifted how they define success. As one of my sources put it, utility is not a content strategy. It is an institutional identity. Let me give you a sneak peek of the key modules and findings. Module 1 tackles metrics. So many people that I spoke with told me that page views really have become an outdated metric for the world we live in now. Newsrooms that are maintaining their traffic or growing it really think about loyalty. They measure loyalty. So take, for example, Outlier Media in Detroit. They gave us an example of they are thinking about success not in terms of clicks, but by whether their coverage has moved people to act in the real world. So, for example, after a piece they published, they saw public comments at a Detroit City Council meeting double. They see this as a win. This has had impact in the real world. So what would happen if we stopped focusing on traffic and made loyalty, like repeat visitor rates, our leading indicator? Our second module is about civic information and news. They are not the same thing. AI can scrape the internet and summarize news from public databases infinitely. But the work that AI cannot replicate requires a human being physically embedded in the community. This is what Epicenter New York City does. During the COVID vaccine rollout, Epicenter didn't report on the fact that taxi drivers and restaurant workers couldn't get appointments for vaccines. We all knew that. They knew that. That wasn't news. What they did was they stepped in to help. They connected with their local assembly person and the health department, found a local church parking lot to facilitate those vaccinations. They solved literally a life or death problem first and then wrote about it. What would happen if we started with the community's problems and treated the journalism as a byproduct? My third module really focuses on relationships. Your audience wants a relationship. They do not want a feed. So for a decade, the field is really optimized for massive reach and scale, right? How many times have we all been pitching something and people said, how do you scale that? That's what advertisers have prioritized. That's what philanthropic funders have prioritized. But what we see is that independent creators are winning because they are building intimacy and trust, not because they have better tactics or better stories. So the enterprise newspapers in Cape Cod that my classmate Calli spoke about earlier held an open house. There's no specific news hook, but 70 people from that small community showed up. That is proof that audience relationships can be real and exist outside of the digital space. So what if we focused on building those deep relationships? That's what actually drives conversions and can build a business. Module 4, I look at distribution. We all know distribution is being redesigned. We have to meet audiences where they actually are. That means video, and that means that cozy web of private group chats and private WhatsApp channels. We need to optimize for AI and not just traditional SEO. So for example, when the Marshall Project hosted a Reddit AMA on a big investigation they did about drug testing of pregnant women in hospitals, that AMA drove roughly 700,000 visits directly to their work. So we have to ask ourselves, where does my audience spend time today? Not where I wish they were, which is my website or my direct platform, but where are they really? And then go meet them there. And my last module focuses on the business model. So the healthiest newsrooms aren't just in the content business anymore. They are diversifying what drives revenue. So one anecdote I heard time and time again is the New York Times is a games and recipe company with a very successful journalism division. They have diversified their offerings and given people a reason to subscribe. So we have to think more broadly about how we create economic value. PRX is doing a really interesting experiment on how to develop new shows. They're looking at creators that share their sense of purpose and then, as they called it, retrograding them into audio and podcasting. The creator brings the audience, and PRX believes that if the audience can give $5 a month, 1,000 people, $5 a month, you can begin to build the foundation of a sustainable business. So we really have to think about what is it that our audience wants beyond the news and the content? What else can we give them to bring them to us? So this was a bit of a taster of what I learned. You can scan that very first QR code to explore the guide, and I hope that you will share it with your newsrooms and your networks. And then after the algorithm really is designed to be a living field guide, and I want us to navigate these challenges together. I'm launching a pilot learning community to be a safe space where we can talk honestly and share our tactics, our experiments. I'd love for you to join us. Please scan that second QR code, and I'd love to see you there. And if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Excellent job, Sumi. All right, up next, 2 more to go, people. We got this. Up next, we have Suvi Tanner. Welcome, Suvi.
Hello all, nice to have you here. My name is Suvi Tanner, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Lapin Kansa, the leading regional media in the Finnish Lapland. My capstone is Strategy Playbook, a practical guide for editors-in-chief and newsroom leadership. I wrote it because I've started fresh in a newsroom or as a team lead 5 times in past 10 years. And every time I needed the same thing, not the rigid manual, but broad guidance on getting people aligned and committed. And that is why I'm talking about the theme, bringing people along today, because that has really been the real work of the past 10 months. Not the strategy, not the data, not the org chart, the people. I want to tell you what happened when I tried to lead a transformation in a newsroom that had been waiting for change. And this is the strategy question at the heart of my capstone project, the strategy playbook. It was not an abstract exercise, it was practice with real people, real constraints, and real stakes. Everything I'm going to share today is my attempt to answer the question from the inside. The playbook is written for editors-in-chief and newsroom leaders, anyone who needs to plan and build commitment to strategic work in their own team. It's a set of practically tested models from one real process, offered so others don't have to make the same mistakes I did. And this is how the playbook is structured. In 6 phases, each answering a key leadership question. Every phase follows the same format: what was actually done, what data or reasoning it was based on, what was learned, what the naysayers said, and how we responded to them. You can use it as a step-by-step guide or dip into individual phases that are relevant to where your newsroom is right now. Just a couple of words about where we operate. Finnish Lapland is a vast area, about a third of the entire country and more than 600 kilometers from northern end to the southern part. With only 200,000 people living there, but nearly 2 million tourists visiting every year. My newsroom is located on the Arctic Circle and has 30 journalists covering this enormous region. We also publish 2 free city papers in the 3 biggest cities, and our 20,000 subscriptions are now kept slightly more digital than print. And this is what we make. Application with 24/7 newsfeed, 3 printed editions, and 6 digital papers every week. We deliver content in several formats: written journalism, video, live streaming, podcasts, and other audio pieces. And all content is subscriber only, both in digital and print. And when I arrived last August, I was given a mandate to grow digital subscriptions. And that was and still is the North Star metric. And when I started 10 months ago, the mood surprised me. People weren't resistant, they were hungry for change. They had been waiting for leadership and clear direction. There was real talent in that room, but there was also something else. My managing editor, who has spent more than 20 years in that newsroom, said something to me that I keep coming back to. She said that we have had these strategies and workshops before, but we were used to those things staying in the slides, not making it into everyday work. And that explained a lot. The problem wasn't resistance to change. It was a deep, learned skepticism that change would actually happen. So here is what I did. First, I held a one-to-one conversation with every single person in the newsroom, all 30. The same questions every time. Why do you work here? What should be changed? What must not be changed? And what do you expect from me? So I didn't come with the plan. I came with the questions. Second, we defined the North Star. Third, I was obsessive about getting the strategy out of the slides and into daily work. And fourth, I asked people what must not change. And that question maintained as much as the rest. I told people that their identity would survive. This is my favorite part. Every change process has naysayers. I think of them as the most honest voices in the room. They name the fear everyone else is carrying. Every leader should respect naysayers' concern. And here are 3 examples of naysayers' quotes, but there are many more in the capstone, as well as answers for them. The answer usually is not to argue. It is to prove it differently by making the strategy visible in every single daily meeting, every morning report, every piece of feedback. The third one here is the one I take most seriously. The changes happened too fast, and that one was partly true. And it's the thing I'm still working on. So where are we now? I ran this survey with the whole newsroom just a couple of weeks ago, actually after handing in the Capstone project. We got 28 responses, anonymous, and the overall happiness score is generally positive for a newsroom in the middle of major change. But we see that some people are struggling. Most people know what is expected of them, but not all. And most feel their role is relevant to the strategy. And most feel they don't have quite enough time. What the survey really tells me is that the direction is right, the energy is mostly there, but they moved fast and some people are still settling in. If I did this again, I would slow down the rollout, not the ambition, but the timeline. Some people didn't get enough onboarding and some people are still finding their new identity, and that's on me. And it's something we are actively fixing. Bringing people along doesn't end when the org chart is signed. It's an ongoing conversation. I'll close with what I have learned. The most important of these is the last point. Bringing people along is not the phase you complete, it's a practice. It's the ongoing work of leadership. and I'm still in the middle of it. And this presentation is written. This presentation tells about the written capstone, and I would love you to read it. Kiitos. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Suvi. All right, we have one last presentation to get through. Thank you all so much for your patience. But last but certainly not least, we have Vitor Serrano. Welcome, Vitor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vitor Serrano, supervisor at the Journalism Strategic Unit of Global TV, the biggest news media organization of Brazil, with more than 1,300 journalists spread across digital, broadcast, cable, newsrooms. The problem is, AI summaries are eating up search traffic from digital publications. In just 2 years, big news organizations lost 20% of their search traffic, and small ones lost 60%. The so-called Google Zero doomsday scenario even made it into the prestigious Digital News Report from the Reuters Institute for the first time this year. Direct traffic is also threatened since AI companies have been venturing into news creation with initiatives like ChatGPT Pulse and Perplexity Discover. AI companies are not only eating up our traffic, they are using AI to understand the public, or as defined elsewhere, to capture the demanded signals. We, the news industry, are not. Although 80% of the journalists use AI, less than 20% apply it for analytics or audience engagement. The solution is to use AI to listen to the public in real time in order to give newsrooms more power to strengthen connection with its public. We must go beyond the analytics that measure what users do and extract signals from what users say to us, or about anything we should be listening to. And we must deliver these signals in real time for the newsrooms. You may call it social listening for journalists. This roadmap applies both to digital and broadcast news organizations, especially those that are using next-gen TV standard, which allows for greater interaction of users with content. And what are the signals? There are, for example, questions users make about a story published, coverage gaps the public correctly points out to us, story sources, emerging topics, engagement opportunities. Even orchestrated campaigns and error alerts are signals a newsroom can learn from. Our roadmap has 7 steps. First, build an intersectional team with business, product, tech, and newsroom staff. This matters because, as step 2 shows, data and tools may already exist somewhere in the organization, just not in a format that is useful for the newsroom. The third step is defining the signals, and here listening to the newsroom staff is essential, since they're the ones who will be actually using it. Fourth is applying AI to 2 tasks: extracting signals from what users say, comments on the Outleft platform, subreddits, or messages sent to the newsroom organization, weighing them against analytics and the content, and delivering them to the newsroom in a timely and actionable way. Step 5 is training. Newsroom staff need to build literacy around social listening, its value and its risks. 6, facilitate user participation. Are there any channels the company offers? Are the channels that company offers for people contacting us a good match of how they actually communicate among themselves? Are there any frictions we could remove? And of course, review privacy policies to make sure any AI use of user input respects them. 7, measure impact and prefer engagement over volume. And if you would build an AI agent for capturing the signals and deliver it to the newsroom, how it would look like? It would be prompted to respecting the news organization's editorial rules and knowing which signals matter, extract them from what users say, weighing them against analytics and content, and deliver them in real time, in whatever format each newsroom member prefers: email or WhatsApp alerts, data digest, a live dashboard, or a chatbot. Either way, journalists need to be able to access the raw data behind any signal. To show how this would work, we built a demo that, analyzing our website RSS feed, extracts signals from Reddit and delivers them in a dashboard and in an email digest. We chose to use RSS feed and Reddit for this presentation to avoid exposing proprietary data of our organization. The first screen is the dashboard with the first 3 signals the agent ever detected. One was a user question. Did referee Shaw Evans make a white supremacist gesture during the World Cup game? The same signal showed up in the email digest the agent sent. This question from the public had been posted on Reddit 16 hours earlier. Brazil major news outlet wouldn't pick it up for at least another 5 hours, although the World Cup was one of the main subjects of coverage at that period. Still it is. The agent, even in a demo mode, could have given at least 5 hours of advantage to the newsroom using it, direct into the mailbox. The roadmap for using AI to connect with the public is an ongoing project. Some of its next steps are: research the best methods to extract value from what users say. Study the impact of user-driven content on trust and connection. Figure out how to bring broadcasts and digital analytics together, and understand who are the users that say something. This roadmap is based on 17 interviews with experts from our industry, social media, social listening tools, plus academic literature, industry reports, and the CUNY executive program curriculum. We used AI for content navigation, prototyping agent, text revision, and academic research. Please feel free to access the roadmap and the agent concept and get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vitor. Weren't those presentations fantastic? A big round of applause again to everyone for completing their capstone projects and presenting today. Yes, good job, everybody. And congratulations again to the 2026 Executive Leadership Cohort. Each and every one of them made an extraordinary effort to work on these projects, from interviews to research, experiments, trainings, difficult conversations. Over the last year, they attended classes and workshops, and all while juggling their jobs, their organizations, their families, and their lives. So again, I want to thank everyone for making this program possible, and for these leaders for putting their trust in us to lead them across this journey, and to, again, their families and their friends, and the things that they had to take some time away. We appreciate you letting us borrow them for a little bit this year. We're so excited again for everyone that has been a part of this journey with us, and we wish them the best as they go back into their newsrooms and continue on this really important work after this program ends. Stay tuned for more information about the executive program. We have a new cohort, our 7th cohort, kicking off in August and September this year. If this is interesting to you and you want to learn more about the program, please go to our website. You can sign up for more information there. And if you're like, yes, I want to do this in the future, applications for our 8th cohort will open again in the spring, in March of 2027. So please stay in touch with us. Thank you all again so much for taking the time to join us today. I really appreciate it. I hope you were inspired and you're bringing something back to your news organization. I want to thank you all again so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.